Salve amici, Ben here from Latin Tutorial. Last month, I introduced a new app at latintutorial.com designed exclusively to supercharge your Latin learning by combining videos, targeted practice activities, and different Latin readings. If you haven't checked it out, please do so right now. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a powerful tool I have at latintutorial.com that can help you learn Latin vocabulary in a quick, easy, and fun way. I call it Infinitas, Latin for boundlessness or infinity, because your learning of vocabulary shouldn't have limits, and Infinitas has boundless potential, backed by research in vocabulary acquisition. Have you struggled with building Latin vocabulary? How many Latin words do you think you know right now? Infinitas is designed to make learning Latin vocabulary easier and more effective for you. Let me tell you how it works. Initially, it's just vocabulary practice, as you work with a small set of words, around 20. When you prove to the tool that you've learned a word by getting it right 5 or more times than you've gotten it wrong, the word gets banked, saved for later, and another word gets brought in for you to work with. In this way, you have a constantly evolving and personalized set of words. If we go back to the main Infinitas page, you can see the words that have been banked, and they are broken down into levels. A brand new word, once you've shown that you've learned it, enters at a level 1. These words you'll see tomorrow. This is where the idea of spaced repetition comes in. Get that word correct tomorrow, and you'll see it a week later. Get it right then, and you'll see it 16 days later. And get it right then, and you'll move it to your mastered list and see it once every 30 days. All it takes is a correct response to keep it at that level, but if you get it wrong, well, I guess you don't know it as well as you should, and the process starts all over again. Think about the last time you learned a new Latin word. How long did you actually remember it? I see my own students working with vocabulary words before a quiz, only to forget them within a week. Infinitas helps you lock in that knowledge for the long run. Studies show that spaced repetition is one of the best ways to commit new words to long-term memory. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve shows how hard it is to remember information, or in this case, vocabulary words, when they aren't reinforced. The spaced repetition model of Infinitas is designed to counteract forgetting and improve memory retention. But the biggest impact is how work with Infinitas interacts with reading texts on Latin Tutorial. Being able to read a text relatively fluently requires knowing 95% or more of the words, and learners of Latin should try to learn as large a vocabulary as possible, thousands of words even. While you can get there by painstakingly making flashcards and reading scores of Latin readers, Infinitas can help you get there faster and in a way that is specific and individualized to you and your needs. That's because Infinitas initially picks words that are the most common in the language. But if you're reading a text on the site itself, it will find those most common words from your most recent reading section. So let's say you just started reading the Aeneid, and you've read or translated Virgil's amazing introduction, Arma Virumque Cano. When you next load up Infinitas, you'll work with the most important words from this section to help reinforce what you've done by putting those words into longer-term memory and benefit you when you need to reread. And as you read more and more of the Aeneid, Infinitas will pull from your more recent sections. If you're not reading a text on Latin Tutorial, Infinitas will instead pull the most common words in Latin, and after you've mastered all of these core words, you'll begin to see more and more specialized and rare words. Vocabulary words are the building blocks of a language, without which we can't construct or read sentences or complex thoughts. My own students swear by this tool, and I love it when they say that their Latin vocabulary has grown massively and talk about how much easier it is to read Latin. If you're a teacher, I encourage you to use this to help your students grow their vocabulary. You can assign Infinitas as an assignment. I give my classes quarterly goals, so say they need 100 mastered words after the first quarter. Because of how Infinitas works, this requires persistent and continual focus on vocabulary. Putting vocab work into their heads reinforces the importance of words in their learning of Latin. I dare say it also can be a fun activity for them to do during their downtime in other classes or when they're at home. Who knew working with vocabulary can be rewarding and fun? I'm sure I'm not finished with this tool yet, and I'll find ways to make it better. But don't let your Latin learning have limits. Start mastering vocabulary today at latintutorial.com with Infinitas.